Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna Prabhuji, pranams Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna Chitramani Madhuri Dasaji Danvat Pranam Mataji.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji, Danvat Pranams.
Hare Krishna Sri Hari Priya Mataji Danvat Pranam Mataji.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji, Dandavat Pranam.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji Danvat Pranam.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji, Dandavat Pranam.
Hare Krishna Dandat Pranam. Hare Krishna to all the devotees. Please accept my humble obeisances and Dandat Pranam to all of you. I welcome you to the fast track Bhakti Vaibhav program of Radha Govinda Temple, Kulai, Mangaluru. And indeed, I invite you for and on behalf of His Grace Sri Ramanishta Das Prabhuji. As usual, we shall begin with the prayers. Prayers are very important because only mercy of the Lord can take us where we want to reach. And without His mercy, we will not be able to understand His message clearly. Om Ajnanatimirandasya Gnananjanushalakaya Chakshur Unmilitam Yena Tashmai Shri Guruve Namah. Shri Chaitanya Manobhistam Sapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Utpadakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavasya Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sagan Raghunathanvitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Shri Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sagan Lita Shri Vishakhanvitan Hey Krishna Karuna Sindhu Deenabandho Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Shri Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vancha Kalpatarubhyasya Kripa Sindhubhya Eva Cha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namah Namo Vishnupadaya Krishna Prestaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swamin Iti Namine Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Pashyata Deshatarine Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhara Srivasadi Gauravakta Vrunda Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Bhakti Vaibhav, Canto 1, Srimad Bhagavatam, Chapter 13, Dhritarashtra quits home. The story that went by up till now is the war of Kurukshetra. At the end of that war, Krishna leaves for Dwarka, and so he leaves Hastinapur and reaches Dwarka. He has been bid farewell from Hastinapur with ladies of Hastinapur saying rhymes which were pronounced better in the glories of Sri Krishna than even the Vedic hymns. On the other side, the Dwarka was presented again with beautiful decorations, and the whole city became livelier again, with the people coming back to their consciousness when Krishna arrives there. During the war of Kurukshetra, Balaram and Vidura decided not to participate in this war because, according to them, the war was unjustly pronounced by Duryodhana and Kauravas. In any case, war caused complete annihilation of the armies and the Kauravas, armies on the Kauravas side and the Kauravas. It also caused a lot of damage to the armies of the Pandavas, and all the Duskriyans, those who were demoniac, those who were not following the religion, those who were a burden to this planet Earth, those who were just sacrificing for material benefits and enjoying the life without any purpose, and those who were never following the sastric injunctions, all lost their lives. Fortunately for them, they were being killed under the instruction of Lord Krishna, directly or indirectly, and thus all of them had what we call sadagati, or they were destined to liberation. At the end of the war, Krishna was very happy to install Yudhishthira as the king with his brothers at the helm of the administration. Yudhishthira always believed that as a king, he is simply an agent of Lord Krishna and to follow the instructions of Lord Krishna. Since he was following the instructions of Lord Krishna, there was a divine intervention everywhere, and people were fastly getting the fruits of good administration. The rains were enough, the rains were equally spread, the grains were in abundance, rivers and mountains were giving the jewels and the metals, etc., which are needed for the material existence, and thus there was ample supply from the planet Earth, ample supply from the cows and the cow herds of the kingdom, and everybody was happy with plenty all around. The typical Surajya, or very well administered kingdom, was existing all over the planet Earth. About time when Vidura returns from his pilgrimage. Vidura went at the time of beginning of the Kurukshetra war, just before the beginning, for the pilgrimage of holy places. This is where today we are beginning, and we'll take up first 20 verses. Of course, we will extend a little bit 4 or 5 verses until the topic is over. This is as far as the story is concerned. As far as Srimad Bhagavatam Canto 1 is concerned, you know that the first 3 chapters of Canto 1 were about the 6 questions asked by the Saunakadi rishis at Naimisharanya, and they were answered by Srila Sutta Goswami. Chapter 4 to 7 describes the history of Srimad Bhagavatam, wherein Vyasadeva feels uncomfortable and not satisfaction or satisfaction after writing so many spiritual injunctions. Narad Muni, his spiritual master, visits him and tells him where the fault lies. His fault had been that he had not been giving enough importance to the Krishna Katha and not describing Krishna Katha in detail and not describing devotional service or bhakti marga profoundly in an understandable manner. His most of the efforts were going around the karma kanda and all those rituals that would end up giving the material fruits and material enjoyments. This is one of the reasons why there were extensive sacrifices all along the planet Earth. Chapter 7, verse 12 onwards, it describes the things that revolves around Parikshit Maharaj. Parikshit Maharaj being the heir of the Pandavas, the only remaining heir of the Pandavas. And Yudhishthira Maharaj has been involved in teaching and training Parikshit Maharaj into a good king. The process goes on, but there are certain areas where the record gets stuck, like the pin of the record, audio records getting stuck in the middle of the story. Dhritarashtra has been one of that stuck record and keeps on living the same material life in spite of being defeated by Pandavas, in spite of being all his children killed, the entire army wiped out, but he still feels that being senior-most, he is still the king of the kingdom, or he still wishes that at least he should be given the kingship to continue. Basically, our aim is to learn the connection between chapter 12, chapter 13, overview of chapter 13, and how other things get connected with it. And then preaching application to identify the reasons why Vidura was competent to occupy the post of Acharya. The chapter summary of the chapter, Dhritarashtra quits home. This is a chapter where most of the stories are between Dhritarashtra and Vidura. The sole purpose of Vidura coming back to Hastinapur was to remind Dhritarashtra about his Vanaprastha and Sannyasa ashram and to leave the material life and go for personal liberation. Dhritarashtra had been stuck with the material life, thinking that he is going to live here for thousands of years, without realizing that the death might come at any time. Situation is very similar to what we all are living our life into. If we really look at it, we all know that the death is definitely going to be there. Not only that, we do not know when the death is going to be met with us. And still we live as if we are going to live here for next 10,000 years. And Lord has approved that immortality. We do not understand that life is short here. Life is not decided with, and we do not know when it is going to end. And it can end a moment later. Thus, we do not give enough space, training, and chances for us to get prepared for the ultimate end, that is death. This also surprised Yudhishthira that everybody knows death is going to be there. No one knows when it is going to come. And still, no one is preparing for this death at all. This is the situation wherein Vidura comes to and sees that Dhritarashtra is under the shelter of Yudhishthira and the Pandavas. Yudhishthira being Dharmaraja, he is following his dharma, taking enough care of his uncle, who is now a father. And in spite of Dhritarashtra and his sons, all activities against them, causing even their life to a threat, they have forgotten all those things. And they are taking care of Dhritarashtra and his wife as good as they would take care of their parents. Verse number 1 to 7 describes the return of Vidura to Hastinapur from pilgrimage. Verse 8 to 13 describes conversation between Yudhishthira and Vidura. Verse 14 to 17 describes Vidura's purpose for staying in Hastinapur. The last area of verse 18 to 28, Vidura chastises Dhritarashtra because Vidura realizes that Dhritarashtra seems to be very well set with the pleasures and the sevas and services that he gets from Yudhishthira and his brothers. And they are clinging on to their material life as if they are still very young and looking forward to decades and decades of life. The other part of the chapter, which tomorrow you will get through Dameshwari Mataji, is verse number 29 to 37, wherein Dhritarashtra, Gandhari, and Vidura, all three leave and they lived without giving any information to Yudhishthir or Pandavas, including Sanjay. And they leave and Yudhishthir laments. Being a Dharmaraja, he feels that there must be some inadequacy in his services to his parents that they have left without telling. And lastly, verse 38 to 60, Narada Muni dispels Yudhishthir's lamentation. So the sections, part of the sections that we would not touch at all today, are the Dhritarashtra, Gandhari, and Vidura that leave and Yudhishthira laments. And the Narada Muni dispels Yudhishthira's lamentation. If we go in the detail of these verses in this chapter, then the first 7 verses, as we said, returns of Vidura to Hastinapur for pilgrimage. The first 2 verses actually describes the return of Vidura after hearing, learning, and conversing with Maitreya Muni about self-realization. While returning back from Hastinapur, Vidura meets with Uddhava, and Uddhava describes in great detail about his conversation with Lord Krishna, and that Lord Krishna has left instructions and messages for Vidura to Maitreya Muni. Indirectly, though Vidura was very insistent on making Uddhava as his spiritual master, Uddhava avoids it because he is too young against the old age of Vidura, and he directs him to an appropriate authority of Maitreya Muni, who is much older than Uddhava, and very appropriately realized soul for Vidura. Vidura thus makes Maitreya his spiritual master, who tells him in detail about all the Divya Jnana or divine knowledge, transcendental knowledge, passing on to him. So that's what is described here. And we'll read through the translation of the first 2 verses. Sri Sutta Goswami said, while traveling on a pilgrimage, Vidura received knowledge of the destination of the self from the great sage Maitreya, and then returned to Hastinapur. He became as well versed in the subject as he desired. In short, Vidura was satisfied with the knowledge that he received from Maitreya Muni, and the knowledge was adequate and enough for him to understand the process of liberation and self-realization. After asking various questions and becoming established in the transcendental loving service of Lord Krishna, Vidura retired from putting questions to Maitreya Muni. So this is where Maitreya Muni satisfies Vidura with his duties as a spiritual master, and Vidura receives knowledge, transcendental knowledge, enough for him to understand and progress for the ultimate self-realization and liberation. These two verses basically describes in detail about the process of realization and some questions that Vidura asked. But since Vidura at the end gets satisfied, he leaves the company of Maitreya Muni and returns back to Hastinapur. Verse number 3 to 7 describes in detail about receiving Vidura by the residents of Hastinapur as if he is a soul which is coming back to the city, and as if people who were in a slumber and they are regaining their consciousness. Mind you, when Vidura left before the Kurukshetra war, Vidura had been a younger brother of Dhritarashtra, and thus his divine guide in administering the kingdom of Dhritarashtra. He was not only the guide, but also the younger brother. And besides being younger brother, he had been one of the Mahabhagavata and the Yamaraja, who because of the curse has taken a birth from Shudra mother, but the father is Vyasadeva, who has satisfied Vidura with the knowledge that his father had. Thus, Vidura had been a pure devotee, Mahabhagavata, and very exalted personality on his own to become Acharya and a spiritual master. He had been in the service of his elder brother Dhritarashtra, who had been blind by birth, and to administer this huge kingdom of the planet Earth. He had been assisting in advising him at each and every step of the way. However, though both brothers were loving each other and were going on with their relationship very well, as Duryodhana grew up as the eldest son of the Dhritarashtra and the eldest of the Kauravas, disruptions in their relationship started because of Duryodhana. Duryodhana being the very loving son of Dhritarashtra, he had more love and affection to his own son, and howsoever wrong he may be on the path of Sanatana Dharma, his wishes were granted just out of love of a father by Dhritarashtra all along, in spite of repeatedly telling and advising contrary views. And thus, when he was in the palace, living with his elder brother, he had a lot of respect as a gentleman, as a man of principle, and as a Dharma Dhurandhar, being Mahabhagavata, for in the people of Hastinapur. This is the reason why it is said here that the Hastinapur. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna. Thank you. Thank you very much, Mr. David. I think Mohandas has been there, right? Hare
Yes,
Krishna.
Prabhu. Hare Krishna, Prabhu.
Thank you, Prabhu.
Hare Krishna. Thank you, Prabhu. Hare Krishna.
And that's why it is mentioned here that the people of Hastinapur felt as if their consciousness has been regained because that's much of faith, love, and affection Vidura used to command amongst the people of Hastinapur. So, in the text of the 3 to 7, when they saw Vidura return to the palace, all the inhabitants, Maharaj Yudhishthir, his younger brothers, Dhritarashtra, Satyaki, Sanjaya, Kapat, Krupacharya, etc., all of them got together and got in sight of Vidura. It so appeared that they had regained their consciousness after a long period. With the great delight, they all approached him as if life had returned to their bodies. They exchanged obeisances and welcomed each other with embraces. Due to anxieties and long separation, they all cried out of affection. King Yudhishthir then arranged to offer sitting accommodations and a reception. After Vidura are sumptuously and took sufficient rest, after Vidura ate sumptuously and took sufficient rest, he was comfortably seated. Then the king began to speak to him, and all who saw present them, they were listening. The atmosphere in the palace is like returning of one of the chief of the palace back after a long time. And all the residents of the palace are getting together. First, they embrace each other. They have tears in their eyes. And then giving good food. And then allowing the chief to rest for a while. Give him a good asana. And then they all sit around him to know more about him. So the whole atmosphere and environment is created as if someone very near and dear one who was in separation has returned back And now there would be a conversation to know what happened in each other's absence. A wonderful scenario of a returning family man. Verses 8 to 13 is a conversation between Yudhishthira and Vidura. 8 to 11 are the verses, 4 verses, that Yudhishthira inquires about Vidura's travel and Dwarkavasis. Maharaj Yudhishthira said, "My uncle, do you remember how you always protected us along with our mother from all sorts of calamities? Your partiality, like the wings of a bird, saved us from poisoning and arsons." Yudhishthira Maharaj, being the eldest of the family, is now talking about the gratitude that he feels for the love and affection that Vidura had offered, showing his partiality towards the Dharmaraja and towards a very straightforward Pandavas who used to live a righteous religious life and believing in the principles and ethics, were never doing anything contrary to the injunctions of Vedas. He remembers also and gives due credit and gratitude to Vidura about saving them with his mother from calamities, poisoning, and arsons. You remember how Bhima was given poison in the laddu and how Bhima went into a well and getting drowned in the water. The arson of palace which was on flame and so on. There are so many incidences that a huge, marvelous Mahabharata was written on it. While traveling on the surface of the earth, how did you maintain your livelihood? At which holy places and pilgrimage sites did you render services? Yudhishthira, after showing his gratitude, is now asking him questions about what he did, where he went, what pilgrimages he do, how he lived his life, and how he sustained himself, and which are the holy places and pilgrimage sites that he visited. My Lord, devotees like your good self are verily holy places personified because you carry the personality of Godhead within your heart. You turn all places into places of pilgrimage. This is one of the good verse that we should remember, verse number 10, where Srila Prabhupada extensively describes that we, the devotees, go to the holy places and we go there to collect the credits. We get punyas and pious activities are performed there. However, there are many who still go there, and some of them commit even offenses. However, whatever sins that we have done when we go to a pilgrimage, we get all those sins dumped there and get afresh to live a normal and good life again. All those sins that we, the humans, live there are being absorbed by people like Vidura when they visit the pilgrimage sites. It is simply because they are Samadrasta, they consider each human being as same, and they bow down to each human being because Lord Vishnu is living in the heart of everyone we call Paramatma. And thus, these pure devotees are actually pilgrims personified, and they go there to clean the pilgrimage for further sins from common public. So remember, the purpose is of our pilgrimage visit may not be same. The preaching application is that we go with people like Navarishtadas Prabhuji and our gurus and many senior devotees. They go for a different purpose. They go to clean the pilgrimage while we go there to collect punya and leave all our sins there. My uncle, you must have visited Dwarka. In that holy place are our friends and well-wishers, the descendants of Yadu, who are always wrapped in the service of Lord Krishna. You might have been, you might have seen them or heard about them. Are they all living happily in their abodes? Yudhishthira, being Dharmaraja, knows that he cannot ask the condition of Lord Krishna because Lord Krishna, being the absolute truth, Param Parameshwar, and creator of the material manifest, maintainer of the material manifest, and annihilator, father of all the living beings, and the causes of all the causes, cause of all the causes. You cannot ask how is he, because he must be in the best condition possible. When he is the owner of the entire thing, how can you ask about him? And so he is not asking about how Krishna is. He is asking all questions around Krishna so that he can deduct his conclusion from the answers that Krishna is well. These are the minute details that Srimad Bhagavatam is including for us to realize and talk about our spiritual master and our gurus and our senior devotees. Verse number 12 to 13. So this is where the inquiry of the Yudhishthira finishes. And then now verse 12 to 13 Vidura relates everything except the news of Yadu annihilation. Since Yudhishthir cannot ask a leading question or a direct question about Lord Krishna, Vidura is also smart. He is a pure, liberated soul, exalted devotee, and he does not reveal from his own side about the complete annihilation of the Yadu dynasty and departure of Lord Krishna back to Goloka Vrindavan. He talks about everything around it to pass on the message. But as it's said here, he doesn't doesn't give the news about these two aspects. So let's see what these 12, 13 verses say. Thus, being questioned by Maharaj Yudhishthira, Mahatma Vidura gradually described everything he had personally experienced, except news of the annihilation of the Yadu dynasty. Compassionate Mahatma Vidura could not stand to see the Pandavas distressed at any time. Therefore, he did not disclose these unpalatable and unbearable incidents because calamities came to their own accord. When we disclose any bad news, it always distresses the party who is hearing the news. The fact is, the calamities and the reverses come in the material life because of some or the other karmas. They come on their own. And why should we become the messenger of such news to spread to our friends, relatives, and close bys? Because it at the end only creates further distress. This is the principle that Vidura follows in verse 12 and 13 and avoids volunteering the information about the Yadu dynasty annihilation. 14 to 17 verses describes Vidura's purpose for staying in Hastinapur. For the benefit of Dhritarashtra, who is attached to family affairs. Vidura, seeing the family, has now realized that in this family, two people, the mainstay of Kauravas, Gandhari and Dhritarashtra, are not only staying in the palace, because they are also among the people who are sitting around Vidura, and he is remarking them and their life approach, realizes that they are fully attached to the family affairs. There is no feeling of renunciation or detachment from the material palace, family, and the relatives. Remember, Srila Prabhupada always says that your children, your wives, your relatives, your friends, they may be making a big army, but when the death comes, the exam is your examination, where you are alone and you are on your own. Not only that, the journey after that is also where you are alone and you are on your own. And so you got to learn to detach yourself from all the connections of material world, like your children, like your family, like your friends, like your relatives. And that's what has been described here in verse number 13. Sorry, verse number 14. Thus, Mahatma Vidura being treated just like a godly person by his kinsman, remained there for a certain period just to rectify the mentality of his elder brothers, and in this way being, as long as Vidura played the part of a Sudra, being cursed by Manduka Muni, Aryama officiated at the post of Yamraja to punish those who committed sinful acts. Mundaka Muni committed a small crime for which he was punished by Yamraja, and Mundaka Muni felt that the crime was trivial and the punishment was too large. And so, as a Brahmana and a liberated soul, that Muni gave a curse to Yamaraja, and that's how Yamaraja is now a Vidur who has taken birth at the Shudra, a maid at the palace, with a father who is the incarnation of the Lord Krishna, Vyasadeva. There goes along the great description of how whole story happened and how Yamraja accepted the curse. Yamraja could have asked for benefits in the curse or leeways in the curse, and thus minimizing the effect of a curse. But he didn't do that because he had always been in love with the Lord and was very much inclined and interested in performing devotional services, including preaching. So remember that we all, when we do our devotional service, we are being blessed by Lord Krishna, and that's why we are able to do the devotional service. And I am sure most of you are involved in some or the other preaching. Again, this is the mercy of the senior devotees and the gurus that we have, with the mercy of Lord Krishna, that such an opportunity is given to us to talk about Lord Krishna's Krishna Katha, and his divine knowledge. Unless we are specially blessed, this thing doesn't come along. And Yamaraja being very busy in the punishment of all the jivas who were coming to him, had no time in performing devotional service and uh, doing preaching. So this is the reason when he was given a curse that Yamaraja very joyfully accepted, not thinking that he would have a peaceful vacation, but that he would have an opportunity to do the devotional service, perform devotional service, and lots of preaching. That's what has been described here in detail. Having won his kingdom and obeyed and observed the birth of one grandson, competent to continue the noble tradition of his family, Maharaj Yudhishthira reigned peacefully, and enjoyed uncommon opulence in cooperation with the younger brothers, who were all expert administrators to the common people. And insurmountable eternal time imperceptibly overcomes those who are too much attached to family affairs and are always engrossed to their thoughts. It vividly describes three things here. Number one, it describes the Vidura's position, how from Yamaraja he is here, and the condition of Yudhishthira and his administration and wonderful functioning machinery of the kingdom of Yudhishthira. People being very happy and contented. And lastly, it describes the imperceptible time. And the wheel of the time always keeps moving without one realizing how it moves. It's quite difficult to understand. But suppose I give you a simple example that today is a Sunday, and suppose the Sunday you want to pass, you could pass it in various ways. You could make a plan for the whole Sunday, waking up at 6 o'clock or maybe at 4 if you are a devotee and Krishna conscious devotee. Have a Sunday Aarti, morning Aarti, your Japamala, then again Aarti, and then your Bhagavatam class, etc. And in the afternoon, your choice of learning, and evening also Japamala, and then sleeping. You can also choose to not do anything, just sleep around, have a nice breakfast, have a nice big lunch, have a nice big dinner. And since you take a big lunch and dinner and big breakfast, you're bound to sleep. And so you sleep and pass the day. Remember, in both the cases, the day is going to pass on. So the time is imperceptible, but it goes on. It is insurmountable, and it just goes on. You either use your time or you waste your time. Either way, the time is going to go. And that's what is being indicated by Vidura indirectly to Dhritarashtra. So the verses 14 to 17 describes in great detail about these three aspects that Vidura realizes in his life. Number one, that he is here with a curse and he has to ultimately go back to his position as Yamaraja. Number two, that Yudhishthir now he is looking after and training very well his heir, Parikshit Maharaj, and everything is very well set by Lord Krishna. And thirdly, the time is passing. Both Vidura and Dhritarashtra are now old, and it's about time that they undergo the process of renunciation, process of sannyasa, and leave the body in perfection and liberalization. So the entire process is basically Vidura came back not because he was exhausted, not because he was tired, not because he, he was missing the family, not because he was loving the palace, not because he loved the food of the palace. He came back to see how things are in Hastinapur, and if things are going good, he should involve himself and his generation of people to go back to God, at least the beginning of the process of going back to Godhead. He comes here, he sees these things and realizes that it's about time for the thruster to leave this material attachment, take a sannyas, go back to Godhead, and that's the only way left now. We cannot go on. He cannot go on in the palace life along with Gandhari there. And this is why he has come to see and visit Hastinapur. We are now jumping into the final stage of Vidura chastising Dhritarashtra. And we'll take until verse 20 so that tomorrow Tameshwari Mataji doesn't have a problem of repeating things. Verse number 18 describes how Vidura chastises Dhritarashtra in real words. He's telling Dhritarashtra, get out of there. And fear has already overtaken you. Verse 19 and 20 tells, Lord, as Kala approached all of us, everyone needs to surrender everything, including life that you love, possess, and are enjoying. So let's look at the words used there. Mahatma Vidura knew all these, and therefore he addressed Dhritarashtra, saying, My dear king, please get out of here immediately. Do not delay. Just see how fear has overtaken you. He wants Dhritarashtra to realize that since fear has overtaken him, he is living under the shelter of his enemies. Whether he likes it or not, he treated all the Pandavas worse than his enemies. When you fight up front in front with the war and with the weapons, that's what enemy does. But when you make plans to kill them, when you make plans to poison them, or when you make plans to burn them alive, that's not what enemy does. That's what Satan does. And that is the worst enemy. So if your intentions are clear and your life is sin and you are fighting, that's fine. That's enemy. You know he is enemy. He is come to kill you. And so you will fight your way out. But when somebody does something in ignorance, in your ignorance, and you become a victim, that's the worst kind of an enemy. So verse number 18 describes him to get out of here as he is already being overtaken by fear. This frightful situation cannot be remedied by any person in this material world. My Lord, it is the Supreme Personality of Godhead as eternal time that has approached us all. He is explaining to him that the situation that you are in is such that no one can remedy this situation in this material manifestation. If you want the remedy of the situation of your fear, the fear that your soul is also feeling, is only to go back to Godhead, and only He, the eternal Kala, that can solve your problem. He goes further. And tells whoever is under the influence of supreme Kala or eternal time must surrender his most dear life, and what to speak of other things such as wealth, honor, children, land, and home. He is using a final weapon and telling him that when the Kala approaches, you have no choice but to surrender to him. Forget about your wealth, your relatives, all other things that surround you, because you ultimately have to give your own life, and there is nothing bigger than your own life. So get prepared to live and give your own life. Yudhishthira needs to be chastised, and as a younger brother and advisor to Yudhishthira, Dhritarashtra needs to be chastised, insulted, to realize what position he is in, because he has already compensated himself into a position of comfort by staying in the palace, and somehow he is so fearful that mentally he has accepted the food and all other things that being provided by Yudhishthira and his brothers. This being provided as a charity, but he doesn't realize. He still thinks that he is the eldest and thus he is more or less a king. So unless one is chastised, he would not understand and he would not then leave. So now Yudhishthira, now the Dhritarashtra, is being chastised repeatedly in all the verses. And if I tell you in nutshell, 21 and 22 verses describe about all your relatives die, symptoms of old age appear in you. 23 and 24 says, living like a dog of Bhima, no need to live degraded life, explaining to him that his own enemy, Bhima, which he hates the most, is throwing the rotis that you eat. And lastly, in the 25th and 28th verses, he is describing how Kripana is. You couldn't be a Narottama, become at least Dhira, and then leave for the north. So he is explaining him at the end, after chastising him about his position, about his fear, about his present situation, that you are certainly at the moment a Kripana. Kripana is the very low level beggar. You cannot become a Narottama now because it's too late for you. But at least become Dhira. Dhira is a neutral person who feels everyone is sane, who is Samdrashta, who believes in Lord and is ready with control of his senses and his mind, so that he can now become Dhira and leave the world and the material manifestation. Many things, but that will be taught to you by other teachers. Would someone like to read these? Any of you?
Hare Krishna Prabhuji.
Go ahead.
Vidura, Padma Kirtita and may I read Prabhuji?
Go ahead, Mataji.
Greatness of Vidura as a pure devotee of the Lord. The value of great parentage and noble birth is evaluated here in connection with the birth of Vidura. The culture of a human being begins when the father invests his semen in the womb of the mother. According to his status of work, a living entity is placed in a particular father's semen, and because Vidura was not an ordinary living entity, he was given the chance to be born from the semen of Vyasa. Srimad Bhagavatam 3.5.19. It is understood that Yamaraja was cursed by Manduka Muni to be degraded as a Shudra, and therefore Vidura was an incarnation of Yamaraja. As an eternal servitor of the Lord, he displayed his devotional activities very ardently and lived a life of a pious man, so much so that a materialistic man like Dhritarashtra also got salvation by his instruction. Thank you, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna.
Thank you very much, Mataji. Thank you. I want someone else to read this. Anyone?
Hare Krishna Prabhuji, student.
Okay. Sorry. Tarini Mataji. Go ahead, Mataji.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji, Panchanga Pranams.
Hare Krishna, Mataji.
How did Yamaraja become a Shudra? Manduka Muni is cursed to Yamaraj. The state police caught some thieves who had concealed themselves in the heritage of Manduka Muni. The police constables, as usual, arrested all the thieves and Manduka Muni also with them. The magistrate specifically punished the Muni to death by being pierced with a lance. Yamaraja, being questioned by the Muni, replied that the Muni in his childhood pierced an ant with a sharpened straw, and for that reason he was put into difficulty. The Muni thought it unwise on the part of Yamaraja that he was punished for his childish innocence, and thus the Muni cursed Yamaraja to become a Shudra, and this Shudra incarnation of Yamaraja was known as Vidura. Although Vidura did not inherit the property of his father, the brother of Bhishmadeva, still he was given sufficient state property by Dhritarashtra, the elder brother of Vidura. Vidura was very much attached to his elder brother, and all along he tried to guide him on the right path. During the patricidal war of Kurukshetra, Vidura repeatedly implored his elder brother to do justice to the sons of Pandu. But Duryodhana did not like such interference by his uncle, and thus he practically insulted Vidura. Srimad Bhagavatam 1.13.1 purport. Hare Krishna Prabhuji.
Thank you, Dharini Mataji. Who would like to, can you raise your hand, whosoever want to read?
Prabhuji, Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna.
Shall I read, Prabhuji?
Go
Hare
ahead.
Krishna.
Prabhuji, Hare Krishna.
Go ahead, Mataji.
Gandhari, natural frailties of a woman. She was the most beautiful girl of her time, and she was equally qualified by her womanly qualities, which endeared every member of the Kaurava court. But despite all her good qualities, she had the natural frailties of a woman, and she was envious of Kunti when the latter gave birth to a male child. Both the queens were pregnant, but Kunti first gave birth to a male child. Thus, Gandhari became angry and gave a blow to her own abdomen. As a result, she gave birth to a lump of flesh only. But since she was a devotee of Vyasadeva, by the instruction of Vyasadeva, the lump was divided into 100 parts, and each part gradually developed to become a male child. Thus, her ambition to become the mother of 100 sons was fulfilled, and she began to nourish all the children according to her exalted position. Srimad Bhagavatam 1.13, 3 and 4.
Thank you.
Hare Krishna. Thank you, Prabhuji.
Thank you. Can someone read these?
Prabhuji, should I read?
Go ahead, Mataji.
Devotees like Vidura are holy places personified. Important text 1.13.10 Bhavat Vida Bhagavata Tirtha Bhuta Swayam Vivo Tirthi Kurvanti Tirthani Swanti Satena Gadavrita. My Lord, devotees like your good self are verify holy places personified because you carry the personality of Godhead within your heart. You turn all places into places of pilgrimage. তোমারও হৃদয় সদা গোবিন্দ বিশ্রাম গোবিন্দ কহেনে মোর বৈষ্ণব পরাণ From Vaishnava song এই বড় করুণা করো বাই Srila Narottam Das Thakur. Swatena Satana Gada Vrita. Why do the pure devotees like Vidura carrying Lord within their heart turn all places into places of pilgrimage when even the other ordinary persons visiting there also carry Lord within their hearts? Hare Krishna, Pranam.
Hare Krishna. What was your name, Mataji?
Saheli Bose
Okay.
from Kolkata.
Okay. There is one more, Chanda Mataji. Go ahead, Mataji.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna.
It is the duty of an enlightened soul to deliver the fallen ones, Vidura's mercy upon Dhritarashtra. On the part of Maharaja Yudhishthira, it was quite in order to maintain this his uncle in a benefiting manner, but acceptance of such magnanimous hospitality of Dhritarashtra was not at all desirable. He accepted it because he thought that there was no alternative. Vidura particularly came to enlighten Dhritarashtra and to give him a lift to the higher status of spiritual cognition. It is the duty of enlightened soul to deliver the fallen ones, and Vidura came from that reason. Reference Bhagavad Gita 1.13.14 purport. Reference yes. I know. That is why I am going there to save him. Srila Prabhupada personally saved his disciples from deviance. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Mataji. Ardhvayu Prabhuji, would you like to read? Ardhvaya Gauranga. Go ahead, Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji, Dandavat Pranam.
No problem.
Viduraj, a special qualification in instructing such learned kings and Kshatriyas as Dhritarashtra and Maharaja Yudhishthira. Viduraj's spiritual enlightenment in transcendental knowledge by the authority of Rishi Maitreya Rishi. Vidura was not actually a Shudra, but a Yamraj, a Mahajan. Being Mahajan, it is the duty of Yamraj to preach the cult of devotion to the people of the world, as Narada, Brahma, and other Mahajan too. The conclusion is that Vidura was never a Shudra, but was greater than the purest type of Brahma. Srimad Bhagavatam 1.13.15 purport. Hare Krishna.
Thank you very much, Prabhuji. Okay. Who is left out?
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna. Prabhuji, shall I read?
Who are you? Are you ready for?
Chitram.
Go ahead. Go ahead.
Hare Krishna. Dhritarashtra versus
Go ahead.
Dhritarashtra was 1 minute, Prabhuji. Dhritarashtra versus Dhritahari. Dhritarashtra meaning Dhritarashtra was the eldest son of his father, and therefore, according to law, he was to be installed on the throne of Hastinapura. But because he was blind from birth, he was disqualified from his rightful acclaim. But he could not forget the bereavement, and his disappointment was somewhat compensated after the death of Pandu, his younger brother. His younger brother left behind him some minor children, and Dhritarashtra became the natural guardian of them. But at heart, he wanted to become the factual king and hand the kingdom over to his own sons, headed by Duryodhana. With all these imperial ambitions, Dhritarashtra wanted to become a king, and he contrived all sorts of intrigues in consultation with his brother-in-law Shakuni. But everything failed by the will of the Lord, and at the last stage, even after losing everything, men and money, he wanted to remain as king, being the eldest uncle of Maharaja Yudhishthira. Thank you, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Chitra Mohin Devidasi. Thank you. Fine, I think we'll go thus far. Vidura's instruction to Dhritarashtra, we are actually halfway. And this comes into verse 23, so I would refrain from doing it. Any question, any doubts, any revelation any commentary, any issues, any problems, any mistakes, please go ahead. Are these hand raised for the questions? Chanda Yadav Mataji. Mataji, you have raised your hand. Okay.
No, that is
No,
for
no, no,
reading.
no issue. Saheli Bose. See, this
Yes,
is the
Prabhuji.
problem with the AI. If I raise my hand, the hand will raise. You have a question?
No, Prabhuji.
No problem.
All is good. Prabhuji.
Santhi Sudesh.
Hare Krishna. Yes, Prabhuji. Prabhuji,
Go
in the
ahead.
previous slide, it was written Dhritarashtra meaning, and then Dhritarashtra versus Dhritahari. So I wanted to know what that was, Prabhu.
Very frankly telling you, we'll go back to that slide. Would you like to read yourself again? It gives the answer.
Okay. Yeah, but I didn't get the meaning, Prabhu. That's why I'm asking you.
Okay. Basically, we all are having a good person in us and a bad person in us. It's our desire that ultimately converts us towards good or bad. That's why we are tathastha or neutral energy of the Lord. And this is the reason, because we can always go to the external energy, or what is known as the world itself, material manifestation, or an internal energy, or the Lord Himself. So we being from the Tathastha or neutral energy, we could go to the physical material world or to the spiritual world as well. Dhritarashtra, unfortunately, had been all the while walking and talking the material world. If you remember Bhagavad Gita, he utters the first sloka and begins the Gita. And then it has been said that almost the entire Bhagavad Gita that was spoken by Lord Krishna was like a bumper ball to him. He could not understand a single word of the entire Gita, and all 700 slokas went a waste to him. Though Bhagavad Gita was heard by Arjuna and through Sanjaya by Dhritarashtra as well. Arjuna understood everything because it was a good person in him, a devotee in him who was trying to understand. Whereas Dhritarashtra was still in that inimicable stage of envy and quarrel and was wishing the Pandavas to die and his sons to win. And that's why he could not understand a single sloka of Gita. Dhrutuhari is a good person of Dhritarashtra. So that's why it's said Dhritarashtra versus Dhrutuhari. It's a bad person versus this good person. Does that make sense, Mataji?
Yes, Prabhuji. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Fine, if there are no other questions.
Hare Krishna. Prabhuji.
Yes, Hare Krishna.
Prabhuji, in first verse, why Vidura is addressed as Chettapuro?
Vidura is addressed as?
Chetta. As, that name.
Chitta.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, Prabhu.
Did I mention somewhere Chitta?
Cheta, Prabhu.
What? I can't understand, Mataji.
And that in verse 13.1, Prabhu.
What is the word that you are saying? Tell me the word.
Cheta. In Sanskrit, it is written as Cheta.
Chitta.
Yes, Prabhu.
Okay.
प्रभु जी चेता और चित्त चेतो दर्पण मार्जिनम
Chitta. 3.1. Which was the verse, Mataji?
13.1, Prabhu.
That is Jnatva, Prabhuji, not Chetva. Jnatva.
Sorry?
It is Jnatva, not Chetva.
Is it here somewhere? Can you see it?
Now that is in the text verse, no, Prabhuji. That is Jnatva, not Chitva.
I don't know the meaning of the word Natva.
Jnatva is after understanding.
Okay. Does that answer your question, Mataji? Hare Krishna, Mataji.
Yes, Prabhu.
Thank you. All the understanding and the knowledge is the knowledge of Srila Prabhupada, all the senior acharyas, and all the gurus, Shiksha gurus. Any mistake is my mistake. Please forgive me and correct the mistakes. Hare Krishna to all the devotees. Thank you for attending the class. Really appreciate it. And all of you have a wonderful day. Vancha kalpatarubhya shiva siddhubhya evacha patita namu pavanebhyo vaishnavabhyo namo namah.
Hare Krishna, thank you, Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
Thank you very much, Prabhu.
Hare
Hare
Krishna,
Krishna,
Mataji.
thank you,
Hare
Prabhuji.
Krishna.
Hare Krishna,
Thank
Prabhuji.
you,
Hare
Prabhuji.
Krishna.
Hare
Thank
Krishna.
you.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Pranam Prabhuji.